2 years ago, right after our first reforms on a Sunday afternoon, as I was raking leaves with my sons and one of their friends, a car came by. And the guy was honking the horn, so I turned to look and rolled down the window, stuck his arm out, and right as I was looking at him, he flipped me off. The young man that was raking leaves along with my two sons said to me, "Mr. Walker, how do you put up with that?" And I said, "Well, you know, it's America. People have the right to do what they want, to say what they want. It would have been nicer if they'd done it at the Capitol, at the governor's residence, not in a residential neighborhood. But, you know, the moral of the story is stay positive and good things will happen despite what people like that do." A few minutes later, as I was continuing to rake leaves, now not one, but two cars came by, and they were both honking. I kind of turned and looked and waited to see if they were going to do the same thing as the car before, and watched as both the windows went down and the arms came out, and I thought, here it comes. Both of them, instead of giving that unfavorable gesture, both of them gave me a thumbs up. Gavin, the friend, turned to me and said, "Mr. Walker, did you know that was going to happen?" Of course I didn't, but it was a great reminder to him and to my sons that if you stay positive, if you stay focused, good things ultimately will happen. Years ago, when I served in the state legislature, I used to tell new members a simple principle, and that was, don't ever personalize your differences. You see, your opponent today could be your ally tomorrow. If you personalize that difference, it's awfully hard to get that person back on your side in the future when you do agree. It's one of those things that we saw is lost not only in our own state, but I think particularly in our nation's capital. It's all right to stand up for principle, but you can be decent about it. And I think most people expect that across the country, certainly do in my state. A lot of people talk about this tipping point, and that's certainly a concern, but I'm still optimistic. I believe the vast majority of people today who are dependent on government don't want to be. They understand, just like the rest of us, that true independence doesn't come from the mighty hand of the government. It comes from that self-determination. I think that's not just a conservative or Republican principle. I think it's an American principle, the idea of helping people transition from government dependence to true independence. Growing up as a kid in a small town in Delavan, Wisconsin, I don't ever remember anybody telling me, "Hey, Scott, someday when I grow up, I want to become dependent on the government." It just didn't happen. People's idea of the American dream was that someday, with hard work and self-determination, they could live their own vision of the American dream. I'm absolutely optimistic about America. I have an eternal optimism in the American people. Maybe not so much in the American government, but in the American people, and ultimately that trumps anything that can happen in our nation's capital. The answers aren't going to come from Washington. Republican governors are going to drive America's comeback.